The Canalejas Project comprises 7 buildings, each of a different type, whose facades must be preserved. 2 of the buildings also require the first bay to be preserved. The different structural designs and the constraints imposed by works around the site require a bespoke system for the provisional stabilizing and shoring of the facades. The new structural design will be common to all the buildings and in general comprises reinforced concrete columns and slabs. The proposed construction system, a top-down and bottom-up method starting from basement level -1, aims to minimize the construction time of the structure and allow other activities on higher levels to commence as soon as possible. Once the items which are to be conserved have been removed, construction can begin on the micropiles that will act as foundations of the structure for shoring and stabilizing the facade. A pile cap is built over groups of micropiles to support the auxiliary stabilization structure. This structure will also be supported by the first of the twin beams, which is installed over other pile caps, parallel to the inner face of the facade. Both the micropiles and the stabilizing structure they support are located so as to be compatible with both the new and existing structural configurations. Other inclined micropiles connected to the base of the stabilizers will substitute the lower floor slabs in sustaining the pressure of the external ground from the time the old slabs are demolished until the new slabs are constructed. Once the facade has been stabilized, the existing structure is demolished. In order to do this, first, the area of the inner space which is adjacent to the facade is structurally detached, using means which will not affect either the facade or the new stabilization structure. Heavy machinery that allows more rapid demolition is used for the interior. The same light means as those used to detach the structure from the building facade are used to demolish sections adjacent to the facade in the buildings where these are not to be conserved. The demolition of the structure is completed by removing the interior foundations and excavating to the lowest level of these foundations, which corresponds to an intermediate level between what will be basement levels -1 and -2. Another line of micropiles is drilled next to the external facade to support the second of the twin beams. Once loaded, they form the shoring structure of the facade, whose base can then be demolished and the ground underneath excavated. This excavation is achieved by excavating layers with an approximate depth of 2 meters, at the same time as installing metal profiles which, together with the tubes of the micropiles, give rigidity to the system. A pile wall adjacent to the tunnel of Metro Line 2, constructed using continuous flight augering, will mark the boundary of the basement levels along this facade of the building. The foundation piles of the building are drilled from the lowest level excavated at this time. They serve as temporary columns in the section corresponding to the basements. These piles are also constructed using continuous piles, and in this case are reinforced with steel profiles along their entire length. The pile caps and metal beams that form part of basement level -1 are installed on top of these piles and provide the base from which the top-down and bottom-up method is begun. The external excavation works are carried out at the same time as this beam and column assembly, and the formwork and concreting of basement level -1 slab. These works include excavation, removing the heads of the piles and installing the head beam of the pile wall adjacent to the metro, which will support the external slab, which follows the slope of the street. When the interior slab for basement level -1 has been finished, the superstructure is constructed in a conventional manner. The excavation and construction of the other basement slabs are carried out at the same time as the work on the upper floors. Once the excavation works are completed, the permanent building foundations are constructed, followed by installing the permanent columns up to level -1 and pouring the slab corresponding to basement level -4. The building structure is completed by removing the temporary support columns and concreting and lining the permanent columns. Throughout the process, the stability of the facade is monitored by an automated survey control system, which ensures that the movements of the facade are within safe limits. A similar system is installed in the tunnel of Metro Line 2 to ensure that deformations in the pile wall do not surpass permissible levels during the downward construction process.